With a platform that flew so far under the radar outside of Japan, it's hard to pick out any single title as the most well-known PC Engine game. But there are a few games that consistently come up among TurboGrafx fans. The ones that anyone who knows the TurboGrafx are familiar with. The Crush series, the Legendary Axe series, the Bonk series. And among them is this, Blazing Lasers, or to use the Japanese title, since I'm doing PC Engine games, Gunhed. On a platform known for shoot-'em-ups, Gunhed is probably the best known of them. And in a strange way, its release on the TurboGrafx 16 is a big part of why it stays well known even in Japan. The reason for that is, originally, Gunhed was a movie. The movie was intended to be a showcase for Toho Studios' special effects division, and it does feature a lot of very impressive model work. The basic concept behind the film is that scavengers in a world of depleted resources were searching an island where an evil AI went rogue. Naturally, they reactivate it, but they also find Gunhed, a mech suit that was sent in to stop the AI, and bring that back online. Gunhed the movie was an enormous flop, and these days I think it's mainly remembered for the weird choice of name for a fuel source, texmexium. While the PC Engine game was the first Gunhed game, there was a Famicom game that used a lot of the concepts from the film in a very bad strategy game. That one was just completely dreadful. But over on the PC Engine, Compile had acquired the license to make a Gunhed game, and rather than make a new game, they just changed the title of a shoot-'em-up they were already developing. The manual tells you that the fighter craft that you're flying is a later generation of the Gunhed weapon, but come on. Because of that license, the PC Engine game could never be re-released. But because the US version just basically erased the word Gunhed from everything, they could release that in Japan. And as a result, Japanese players can still get the game just under the title Blazing Lasers. The story of the game is, let me check the manual. Let's see, introduction that tells you it's a shoot 'em up, how to use the controller, the weapons, the sub-weapons, how to use the power-up modules, sketches of boss enemies. But no story. The only reason that you know the ship is called the Gunhed is the one sentence telling you that the game is a vertically scrolling shooter. The closest thing you get are the cutscenes at the beginning and end of the game showing you flying into the alien spacecraft, and then it explodes when you beat the final boss. So the real story is that you, as a person playing the video game, have to shoot your way through 9 stages of escalating enemies and bosses. The power-up system in Gunhed is a little bit more complicated than it might seem at first, but it doesn't take that long to get used to it. Basically, there are weapons, sub-weapons, gels, and bombs, and these interact in a few different ways. Weapons come from the spheres numbered 1 to 4. There are 6 levels of each weapon, and you can increase these levels by collecting another icon for that weapon type. So if you're using weapon number 3, and you collect another number 3, then you upgrade its power. You also upgrade weapon firepower by collecting gels, and every additional power level for a weapon requires twice as many gels. So going from your lowest power state to having level 1 of a weapon takes 1 gel. But going from level 4 to level 5 of a weapon costs 16 gels. As the weapons power up, your ship also gains a force field. And if you get hit with the small shield, then you go all the way back to the basic gun that you start with. And if you get hit while you have the large shield, then you go back to the level 2 weapon. Basically, if you're fully powered and you get hit, you get to keep a very weak version of your weapon. If you're not quite fully powered and you get hit, then you go back to nothing. And if you've barely powered up at all and get hit, then you die. All 4 weapons have distinct roles, and the power levels matter a lot. Weapon 1 is the Photon Blaster, an extension of your default gun that adds more bullets as you power up. At higher levels, the bullets spread out. Not the most useful of weapon because the damage isn't especially high, but it is the most effective of the weapons at shooting behind you. That doesn't come up often in Gunhed, but there are a few places where it's handy. Weapon 2 is the Disrupt Wave, a wide shot that fires rapidly and gains an enormous spread when it powers up. At some levels it also tilts, changing the angle that you're firing at as you move left and right. Its biggest weakness is that there are some points in the power-up progression where there's no forward shot, but it is a very effective weapon. My personal choice of weapon is number 3, Field Thunder. Basically the high-powered laser of the game. The shots penetrate targets, which is very useful against bosses, and at full power it covers a good portion of the screen. However, there are some power levels where you have a fairly narrow firing area. At level 6 it's the ultimate gun. At level 5 you might have some trouble. Weapon 4 is the Ring Blaster. A metal ball emerges from your ship and flies around it. As it levels up, more and more balls appear, and with this weapon you get a very basic version of the Photon Blaster firing straight ahead. The biggest strength of this weapon is that the balls will clear out bullets that are coming at you, but it's a low damage weapon that has a lot of trouble hitting some targets. On its own, it'd be my pick for the worst weapon. The 4 secondary weapons come from drops that have letters in them. These often have special effects with how they interact with your other weapons. For example, H is for homing missile. And for most weapons, when you pick it up, you fire 4 of them. But if you have the Photon Blaster, then you fire a spread of 8. M is the multi-body, a small little pod that will follow behind your ship. You can collect this one twice, and have a pair of them following you around. Multi-body interacts well with the Wave and Thunder, because the special properties of those weapons get added to the multi-body, and you wind up with shots that get angled, or ones that curve around to do extra damage. S is for shield, and this will give you a large red shield. This shield is very powerful. You can take a ton of hits with it, which makes it the easiest weapon to use. Of course, all of the other secondary weapons increase your firepower, so you're giving that up for the sake of protection. One more thing about large shields is that even though they extend well past your craft, if they get hit, it still counts as damage. So there's a little bit of additional risk there as well, but with the red shields, it's well worth it. Finally, there's F for full fire, and this transforms all of the weapons. The one with the least modification is the Wave, since it just picks up additional shots that come out the back of the ship and fly up. It's usually a bad choice to get this with Thunder, because it makes the Thunder into a homing shot, and makes it fire just a small strip. Basically, it negates all of the advantages of using Thunder. On the other hand, it's very good with Photon, but regardless of your power level, it turns the forward shot into a large bullet, and these explode into 5 additional bullets when they hit something. Increasing the power level increases the number of shots you can take. So full fire with Photon is really good, but where it really shines is with the Ring Blaster. It adds an additional shot to the Ring Blaster that covers a huge area and does some impressive damage. Button 1 will fire bombs as you're flying around, and you always start your life with 3 of them, but you get more by collecting power-ups that you already have. So if you already have homing missiles and collect another H, then it gives you a bomb. The same thing happens with the gels and weapons when you're fully powered up. You can carry 16 bombs maximum, and while they don't affect some enemies, they're still pretty good at doing massive damage to bosses and clearing out bullets. There is a secret 5th super weapon, but getting it is pretty difficult. First, you have to throw away all your bombs. Just fire all of them. Then you have to collect 32 gels in a row, without collecting anything else. If you do that, then you get a free range mode. Your forward shot for both the Photon Blaster and Ring Blaster will go in the direction that you move, and the Ring Blaster automatically gets the effect of the full fire shot. This is absurdly difficult to do, and from my memories of doing it 30 years ago, it really wasn't that great, but it's a hidden power-up. You'll notice that there aren't any speed power-ups, and that's because you can freely adjust that yourself. Pressing select will rotate through 4 levels of speed for your ship. It defaults to the 2nd, which is the most comfortable one for me, but I don't think any level is uncontrollable. Power-ups that get released from the green ships will rotate through what they're offering, and shooting them will lock them in place for a few moments. If you shoot them too many times, or they reach the back of the screen, then they break into a flashing gel, and collecting that flashing gel will destroy any flying enemies on the screen. While these rotating power-ups are useful to get what you want, if you've got a weapon that fills the screen with attacks, it might be locked for a long time in something that you don't want. So it just adds to the risk-reward. Stop firing and let it rotate to what you need, while simultaneously making yourself more vulnerable. When you get destroyed, things are a little bit funny in Gunhed. In some areas, you instantly revive on the spot. In others, you get thrown back to an earlier section of the level. The best thing to do is just don't die. That'll avoid the problem altogether. You earn extra lives with points in Gunhed. It actually doesn't take that many points to get you an extra life. If you're decent at the game, then you're going to be swimming in extra lives towards the end. If you manage to clear the game, then you're given a cheat code after the credits, but it's not a normal cheat code. Entering it unlocks a higher difficulty mode, and then if you beat that one, you're given another cheat code, which unlocks an even harder difficulty mode. These difficulty increases seem to mainly increase how many shots get fired at you, but they're good ways to ramp everything up, since Gunhed is a relatively easy shooter. Gunhed was Hudson's choice of game for the 1989 Summer Caravan, an event where they toured Japan, and players could compete in a special mode where they had to score as many points as possible in a limited amount of time. Since there's no option to do this in the version of Gunhed you could go out to stores and buy, they created a different version of the game just for the Caravan called Gunhed Special. It gives you the choice of a 2-minute or 5-minute mode, and then it starts you out on level 3. If you won your local competition, then they gave you that copy of Gunhed Special. Now, it's not that rare. Hudson produced about 20,000 copies of it, and then proceeded to give them away in various promotions. These days, a copy of Gunhed Special will set you back around 50,000 yen, which is a lot, but wouldn't even crack the top 10 most expensive commercially released PC Engine games. Here's the score that I could get on the 2-minute mode if you want to try to compete with me. And if you want to compete with the tournament champion, then you need to play 5-minute mode and get a score better than 1,213,210. Good luck. In Japan, Gunhed is regarded as one of the best PC Engine games, a highlight of the system, and it's kind of hard to argue with that. I'm not going to say that Gunhed is the best PC Engine shoot-'em-up. It's top tier, but there's also a couple more that I'd put on that same level. However, I also think that Gunhed is one of the most approachable shoot-'em-ups. Until very late in the game, it's hard to get overwhelmed. There's only a few spots where they really start piling on enemies. And generally speaking, you have time to react to whatever comes your way. The shield lasts long enough to keep you going for quite a while, and your weapons can be real screen clearers. And then, once you've practiced, there's lots of alternative ways to play that can earn you a lot more score. On top of that, it's a long game. Even if you don't die, it'll still take you about 45 minutes to clear the whole thing. Gunhed is a top-tier shoot-'em-up on a platform that's known for having great shoot-'em-ups. It's well worth playing.